Chairman of the Conservative Party, Kevin Hollinrake. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Let me ask you, if I may, obviously the big story of the day is Andrew. I keep wanting to call him Prince Andrew. He's been stripped of that. He's now being officially stripped of his titles by the King. Well, I mean, I want to ask you in a little while why it was 2 weeks ago we were told you can't strip him of his titles unless we have an Act of Parliament. Now it seems that we can, or the King can, and also why it was that we were told, well, we can never strip him of the right to call himself Prince because that is his birthright. Now all of a sudden it seems that we can. So the rules seem to be changing as we go along. But just overarchingly first, your thoughts on what has happened, on what the King has done and what has happened to Prince Andrew.
Well, I think the King's done the right thing. I'm not an expert on the actual process in how these things happen, and certainly I think it's right to say that Parliament can't do it, but I think it's my understanding that the King can always do it. And he's decided to take this very difficult decision with his own brother in terms of stripping him of those royal titles. So I think the least we can do is to support him in his actions, and indeed in terms of where Prince Andrew will live, and the King himself is taking responsibility to pay for that. I don't believe in a trial in the court of public opinion, but I think it was very clear that some of the accounts of Andrew's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein had changed quite often and in recent weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think given that and the continued nature of the allegations and the more serious allegations in terms of some of the criminal allegations against him, I think it was the right thing to do to strip him of those titles.
And of course he was definitively proved to have lied. An email emerged of him sort of reaching out to Jeffrey Epstein saying, oh, you know, we're both in this together, we'll get through it, we'll ride this out and we'll play again soon. This email was sent after he absolutely pledged to Emily Maitlis in that now notorious Newsnight interview in 2019 that he'd cut off all communication. So he was exposed as a barefaced liar. His wife, Sarah Ferguson, or his ex-wife, did exactly the same thing, gave an interview saying, I've committed a terrible error of judgment and I've now cut off all communication with Jeffrey Epstein. And then an email emerged where she said, I'm really sorry I had to say that, but you know, you understand, you remain my supreme friend. So they both came out with the same lie, and I think that only emerged in the last couple of weeks, and I think those two lies were the straws that broke the camel's back.
Yes, true. And I think also Peter Mandelson the same. And these relationships with Epstein have become very damaging for the people involved in them. I think quite rightly, clearly you've got somebody who's been convicted of some terrible offences, and anybody associated with him, if they don't give a full account of what that relationship was like, their position also becomes completely untenable, of course. And that's what's happened. And I think, as I say, the King has made a difficult decision, but one that we support.
Yeah, no, I think I absolutely agree with you. We support the King now. I just think he's kind of dithered about this, and there are still sort of confusing elements to all this. Parliament needs to pass an act. Parliament doesn't need to pass an act. What the hell is going on? But we've arrived at the right point, I think. Now, let's move on to something that probably interests you more. That's Rachel Reeves. This is the front page of the Daily Mail today, sticking with its big story despite Andrew. Humiliation for Reeves. Now, here's the thing, Kevin. You know, this is not the crime of the century. It's not murder or anything like that. But she has broken the law. Her personal family home in South London, in a nice area, Dulwich, you know, perk of the job, really. You get to live in 11 Downing Street. Family move out. They got a nice place to rent out. They rent it out for, you know, quite a lot of money. You know, well, they say it was £3,000 a month. I say it's got to be more than that. I reckon it's £70,000 a year. You don't rent out a house in Dulwich for £3,000 a month. That's a separate issue. The problem here is she should have applied for and paid for a landlord's license. Dulwich Council has that rule. It's all about checking out whether the house is, fire safety, fireproofed and all that sort of thing. Now, she should have applied for that. The Mail found out, so she wrote one of those traditional letters to the Prime Minister. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, oversight and all that stuff. The Prime Minister writes back, said, oh, well, what a fantastic character of honesty and integrity you've proved yourself to be. I think your apology is quite enough. We draw a line under the whole affair. If it was you or me, I bet you they wouldn't draw a line under the whole affair. But then again, this is the way it goes. Right, so then the next day, the letting agent said, well, actually, we did actually tell her all about it, but it's our fault because we dropped the ball on it. The member of staff who was dealing with the Reeves property suddenly resigned and we forgot all about it. Rachel Reeves then has to write to the Prime Minister again, oh, it's come to my attention, I found this email, I did know about it. But, you know, because of the letting agency, we never got round to paying. So the story keeps changing. Keir Starmer keeps writing letters saying, well, thank you for your second apology. That's enough. We'll draw a line over it. Most of us in the real world, all of us peasants and serfs out there are saying, if this was us, we'd get done for it big time. Why can't we have a personal exonerator in the form of the Prime Minister? This is looking seriously like one rule for them, for the political elite, and one rule for the rest of us. And more to the point, the Prime Minister once famously said, lawmakers cannot be lawbreakers. I would say, I'm not kidding here, because the story keeps changing, that if Rachel Reeves had any integrity, if the Prime Minister had any integrity, she would have to go.
Well, he's done the situation up very clearly. I mean, I think what really puts Rachel Reeves in the most difficulty here is her hypocrisy, which is what you said in the past when this has happened. She said, well, people who have broken the law and have lied about it or given a false account of events should have to resign. That's what she's clearly said. She said that back in April 22. That's the situation that's happened here. She's broken the law. She's given one account of events, which turns out to have been false. And then she's given another account of events, which still don't relieve her of the responsibility to get a selective licence, which is a criminal offence, and that's of a standing. I think of about 14 months. She has been breaking the law and receiving tens of thousands of pounds of rent in that period of time. It's her responsibility. She can't say, "Oh, I told my letting agent to do it anyway." That doesn't remove the responsibility for you as a landlord. She's been breaking the law all that time. And she's given different accounts of why that was the case. So what we're asking for, actually, is a full investigation. Both on Wednesday, the Prime Minister decided to take Rachel Reeves' word for what had happened. That turns out not to have been true. And on Thursday, he's done that again. So we don't know if that's true or not. That's why we'd like to see a proper investigation rather than simply an acceptance of Rachel Reeves' account of events. And let's not forget, this is exactly what the Prime Minister said with Angela Rayner, with Louise Haigh, with Peter Mandelson. He said, no, there's nothing to see here. And it's only because we kept pushing, as a party, the Conservative Party were the only party interested in this, we kept pushing that those matters came to a head and they had to resign. So we think it's only right and proper that a proper investigation takes place. If she is found to have done other things wrong, then I think her position is untenable.
I think it is, and here's another reason I think her position is untenable. But I mean, you know, we say that these days about these Labour politicians, and you know, if you have got this Prime Minister who just said, oh, well, you broke the law, you did this, but never mind. You know, it's almost saying their position is untenable with this Prime Minister is almost redundant. A lot of people saying, well, hang on a second, if Angela Rayner had to resign, I mean, let's face it, she was resigned, as they say. She was effectively sacked as Housing Minister and Deputy Prime Minister because of her, quotes, oversight about stamp duties. Why is the Chancellor of the Exchequer not having to resign or leave because of her oversight in terms of this? And, you know, she can't sort of say, oh, well, you know, these landlords' license, I didn't know about them. This is a tweet she posted about Leeds City Council. Listen to this, Kevin. I welcome Leeds City Council's decision to expand their selective landlord licensing policy to include the Armley area. This scheme means private landlords in the area will be required to, by law, to obtain a license for any residential property they are seeking to let. So it's a cause célèbre for her. She cannot plead a kind of airy innocence about this. This is one of her pet causes. And now she's saying, oh, I didn't know, nobody told me. And then, oh, well, they did tell me, but, you know, I forgot. This is getting murkier and murkier, isn't it?
Totally. And the point about that, and I tweeted all that yesterday to say she can't. That was before the second piece of evidence came to light, which contradicted completely the first piece of evidence, the first excuse she gave. The point of these selective licences, they cost landlords up and down the country, you know, hundreds of pounds. This one in Southwark, in Dulwich, in Southwark, costs £900. £900 for a selective licence. It covers a number of years. She didn't pay it. She didn't check that she'd paid it. Yeah, she's on one hand campaigning for landlords to pay it in her area, in her constituency in Leeds and other parts of the country. That's certainly a Labour policy. All this regulation to make sure landlords do the right thing. And when it comes to what she needs to do, of course, she hasn't done it. And hasn't even checked that she's done it, even though she was warned she had to do it. So you can't simply say, well, it's the agent's fault. That doesn't give you any defence in the law. As the Prime Minister said in the past, ignorance is no defence against the law. Besides the fact, she wasn't ignorant of her requirement.
Exactly.
She was told she had a requirement. And this is a person who's been the Chancellor of the Exchequer. You'd think she would have her own affairs in order. Now, as I say, we don't, as a party, despite what Rachel Reeves has done in the past in terms of jumping straight for the resignation button, we're not doing that. We're saying we want a proper investigation, that Rachel Reeves' word can't be taken at face value. She has form for misleading in various different areas, CV, of course, but not least in terms of her account of events on Wednesday, which turned out not to be true. We don't think it's right that the Prime Minister simply says nothing to see here. We need a proper investigation.
Exactly right. I wonder what letter she'll be writing tomorrow. We're all on the edge of our seats about that. Kevin, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Kevin Hollinrake there, chairman of the Conservative Party. Rachel Reeves, come on. I mean, he's saying then, I mean, good interview, good guy. He says there needs to be an investigation. I think the facts are just there, aren't they? I mean, they're there. Are we to have a Chancellor of Exchequer who breaks the law, keeps changing her story, you know, forgiven immediately by the Prime Minister? Is that okay with you? I don't think it's okay with me.